Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Rosa Technocrat. Today we are going to talk about troubleshooting FortiSandbox and the connectivity from FortiGate to FortiSandbox and what are the different type of issues that you can observe between FortiGate and FortiSandbox. I had already made an video earlier, that is the part 1 video where I had explained what are the different type of flows or different modes that FortiSandbox can be configured and how to configure FortiSandbox, how to integrate Sandbox with the FortiGate. So those all basic topics were covered into the part 1 video. You can see the part 1 video in my video comments, the link of the video in video comments, and also as a card on this video you can see at the top while I am speaking. So let's continue. Just a quick recap from the part 1. So in part 1 we discussed about the different firewall policy modes and how they are supported. So we talked about firewall policy mode with respect to FortiSandbox. So how a firewall policy mode can impact the FortiSandbox configuration. So if you have a flow mode configuration, then only sandbox post transfer strategy is allowed and you can only monitor. That means you can monitor and you cannot do an inline block if your firewall policy is in flow mode. While if your firewall policy is in proxy mode, you can do inline scan as well as the post transfer scan. So using the post transfer method, it can be like monitor, but in inline you can do uh, either a block or monitor. So this is how the firewall policy mode impacts. So in the previous video, we also described like how to authorize the device in Forti Sandbox and how to integrate the device. We discussed about these methods. So that is the sandbox scan method and the strategy inline method. So there are two methods. So this was just a quick recap from part one. Now let's continue to part two. Okay, so when let's take the proxy mode as an example for this video because in proxy mode you cover both of the strategy. It can be post transfer or the inline scan. Okay, so if your inline scan strategy is working perfectly, that means everything should work, and inline is basically more where the file is holded until the verdict is not received and file will not be downloaded to the client. So basically inline mode is where no file will be downloaded to the client until the verdict is given from the FortiSandbox. Okay, so that was a quick recap, and now we will talk about all the issues. So our agenda for today is troubleshooting of issues and detecting any issues between FortiSandbox and FortiGate. Let's start with the VM settings. So I will just give you overview. So what FortiSandbox does is FortiSandbox is running multiple virtual machines within the FortiSandbox appliance. And these machines or the virtual machines are as indicated under the VM settings. And the number of machine, the type of virtual machine that can run inside the FortiSandbox depends on what license you purchased. So it can be a Windows 7 or it can be a Windows 10 and Windows 7 with Office installed, Windows 7 with Office 2016 installed. For example, here it says Windows 7 x86 and Office 16 installed. Same way, there is a code for different type of VMs. So you can, based on the license, based on your requirement, like what you want to scan in a FortiSandbox, you can purchase the license for how many clones, how many VMs you want to run within the FortiSandbox. Okay, now what is the use of these VMs? So the purpose of FortiSandbox is basically to scan all the malicious files or all the files inside a VM, observe the behavior of the file, and then based on the dynamic scan, static scan, give a verdict whether this file is allowed or not. So this VM settings page shows you how or like what are the different VMs that are available and what are the clone numbers that you can run. So basically clone is this virtual machine. You can have one instance of this virtual machine running. For this you can have two virtual machines running. So clone is basically the number of copies of this particular type of VM that can run in your environment or on your FortiSandbox. So you can see here enabled VM types. That means there are I have four VMs available. One, two, three, four. Okay. Four. So it says total VM available is four. In use is two because I am using only these two VMs and these two are just installed and not activated. Why they are not activated? Maybe you need a license or license is not there or I have not yet activated. So if you want to activate any VM, you just have to change this clone number, increase the clone number to more than or greater than 0, then it will start activating the window or the virtual machine, whatever license you have. So once you clone these, so you will see how many VMs are enabled and the total number of VM that you have. How many Windows keys you have or how many Office license you have, this is available under local keys. So we have three, total four keys I have and three I have used. Okay, same way clone number, how many clones I can run. So totally on this particular hardware model that I am sharing here, I can run total 24 VMs. So 24 VMs means it is a higher end module, higher end hardware, and I can run 24 VMs or the clones of each virtual machine within the FortiSandbox. And you can also have your own custom VM uploaded. For example, you based on your environment, you can create a VM where you have different application installed based on your company, based on your organization, and you want to execute or test different type of files with that custom VM. So you can also upload an custom VM. And this is for clone number. Okay, so this is all about the VM settings. Okay, now extensions, this is important. So what it tells is which type of files will be sandboxed on which VM. That means if FortiGate or any firewall or any device, if the device is sending these type of files, these files will be executed in this VM and these extensions will be executed in this VM, and if they are in both, then they will be executed in both the VMs. So that is the extensions. Okay, so this is all about VM settings. Then there are many other options like scan profile, job priority. So these I'm not going to talk now because we'll talk based on the troubleshooting or if required. So a scan profile, just to give you overview, scan profile is basically it configures what all settings related to the scan that you want to do from a device or what kind of file extensions. All these settings are under the scan profile. Now, because this video was troubleshooting video, I consider everyone knows the basics of this. So let's go further on to the troubleshooting commands. So on a FortiSandbox, there is a command called test network. So if you run the test network command, it shows all the system requirements that has to be matched for FortiSandbox to run properly. And during any issues or if you face any challenges on FortiSandbox, you should always run a test network to confirm everything is good with FortiSandbox in terms of reachability. So the first is internet connection. So FortiSandbox needs a internet connection to download the different virtual machines for updating, for getting the signature updates, application updates, definition updates, all this from FortiGuard. So Forti FSA, I will say FSA from now onwards. So FSA needs internet connection. So if you do a test network, it checks whether based on the configured routing um, your reachability is there. Then it checks if there is a FortiAnalyzer configured, NDR configured, if it is able to resolve the DNS, ping speed, testing VM DNS server. So all these tests are done if you run the test network. So this also helps in terms of where there is no connectivity to FortiGate or there is no DNS reachability. The network team or the firewall team has not allowed all the required ports from the FortiSandbox. So in troubleshooting all those, it helps if you just do a test network, it shows like all the required ports communication is allowed or not. We will see all this on a live device also. Okay, let's see it together like same time while we are discussing. Let me access my FortiSandbox. So I'm logged into the sandbox. Let's try out this command. Okay, test network. If you press enter, what it does, it just does a quick connectivity check. Okay, it's testing whether internet is reachable or not. It's testing whether is there a FortiAnalyzer enabled. So it says no FortiAnalyzer is enabled. It tests a search engine ping success. This is the VM reachability like VM download server fsavm.fortinet. Then it does a NS lookup. It checks for real-time zero phishing service, FDN service, testing detection, submission server, and this is for dynamic scan for Mac OS. So all these checks are done when you run this test network command. So it will check all the required communication from FSA to different services or to internet or to FortiGate Cloud, FortiGuard. So all this is checked. And if you see some failures here, you should fix them if you know it is required for your operation. Or for example, if I have if mac2.fortisandbox.net is not reachable, it may work because if I don't have any Mac VM installed. Okay, so once you run this, finally you will be able to get a verdict for all these, and this will finish. Okay, so you can see everything that is required from FSA to different connection to different servers. It tests URL submission server, web filtering server, remote server. So it says success, 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 and it says testing cloud submission server. It failed because I don't have a license for cloud submission. So it's like there is no email server configured for this, so that is why it's failed. But this is not required if you are not doing the submissions. So this command tells you all the connectivity requirements that are done or required from FSA to different services, and most of them they are like just a DNS resolution or different FortiGuard services. Okay, going back to the PPT. uh, Diagnose, debug VM init. So these commands are useful when we are troubleshooting some issue related to VM initialization. Let's say you cloned a VM and the VM is not able to activate or VM is not running within the sandbox. So in this case, we can use the diagnose debug VM init command, and it shows like when you are trying to change the clone number, it shows what is exactly happening with this. So for example, here you can see I ran the diagnose debug VM init command, and I see it is trying to activate this window, and it says VM init finished due to failure. That means it is not able to complete in it. Why it is not able to complete? Because it says no more key left to activate Windows 10, right? So if the debug VM minute tells you any issues with VMs itself that are running within the sandbox. So for this you can use diagnose debug VM minute. Let me show you it live. I am on my FortiSandbox diagnose debug VM init. Oops, sorry, it's continuous diagnose debug VM init. Okay, so when I run diagnose debug VM init, initially it gives me okay, these are the different window and VM initialization is done successfully. Let's go to one of the sandbox, and I will just try to change a VM clone here for your information to show you how it tells or how it helps. I have this Windows 10 clone here 0. Let me try to make it 1. I just made it 1. What will happen in VM minute? See, configuration is reloading. Co- Timestamp of VM clone number has been changed. This particular VM has been changed from 0 to 1. So it's activated. Not activated means it's trying to activate this particular Windows. Okay. And so all the details about that clone that just we started, it's doing okay. So here is the error. It says no more key left to activate Windows because I don't have a key for Windows 10, so it's not able to clone it. So now we know where is the issue. Okay, no more key left, and finally it will fail because there is no more key left for Windows 10. So diagnose debug VM init. Make sure diagnose debug VM init. This helps you to find out any issues related to VM initialization itself if the VMs are not running properly. So now you can see here VM init is not finished due to failure. Okay, so I will just stop this debug and I will change this clone back to 0 because I don't have a Windows 10 license and I can't use. I only have Windows. Sorry, I only have Windows 7. Going back to our PPT, so now you know diagnose debug VM init. Okay, so where it helps for VM initialization. Okay, so if it's clear, or if you have any comments or questions, you can anytime comment in the video comments. I am always here to reply on the comments. So diagnose debug VM init helps you for VM initialization issues. Okay, now during all this configuration troubleshooting, like you can come across multiple issues. So those issues I try to explain here. One is you can see the device is unauthorized by FortiSandbox. Okay, this I guess I had explained in earlier video also. So when you add a FortiGate, this I had explained I guess in previous video it's also, but let me just quickly show again. So the device is unauthorized by FSA means when you are doing this initially. So this issue you will face only when you are doing the first time integration. Let me show you this quickly. Okay, this is my FortiSandbox. I will do a diagnose debug device diagnose debug device. Okay, I have to input the serial number of my firewall. So first let me recreate the issue. Okay, so if I go to my FortiSandbox, sorry, FortiGate, and if you go under security fabric connectors, so you see here my FortiSandbox is already enabled, working properly. I don't have an issue. I'm just trying to replicate the issue, or so this issue happens. This issue occurs when you first time try to add this here and you click test connectivity. The request will go to sandbox and the device will appear under security fabric device. Under security fabric device, the device will be listed here during the first time request. And here you get an option like authorize and deauthorize. So initially this is unauthorized. So if you click on this, permission unauthorized, for example. Okay, so if I go back to my FortiGate again, what I did, I made it unauthorized. Okay, let me see. Root unauthorized. I made both of them unauthorized. Basically, it's a VDOM. Okay, so now the device is unauthorized. Okay, if I check under FortiGate and I do test connectivity, what it gives? It gives unreachable or not authorized. And if I see the debug logs for this, let me quickly take the serial number, copy. Okay, diagnose, debug device and the serial number. Okay, now I enable this debug and let me try to do a connectivity test here. Let me make both the screens. Okay, may not be there. Okay, so as you can see here, this is happening. Send package failed. Auth is 2. Auth is 2. That means the connectivity is not working. It's not authorized. Okay, it's not authorized. Let me try to do a test connectivity. If I do test connectivity again, it says unauthorized. So when you see here the debugs, auth is 2. That means it's unauthorized. Okay. Now let me go back and authorize this device. I will authorize, authorized. Okay. Now if I see in the debug, what you see? The device is authorized. Auth is 1. Auth is 1. You can see here, right? Auth is 1. So now it's authorized. And in the debug, you see all the incoming version and the communication started working. So this is the host name of the firewall and login succeeded. Okay, so this command helps you to see all the requests coming in from that device, any request. So if you go here, diagnose, debug and device and the serial number of the device. So this gives all the communication that is happening between this serial number FortiGate or device to the FortiSandbox. Okay, clear? Okay, so this is trouble issues like where it shows device is unauthorized. Okay, same way this diag debug application quarantine on FortiGate side. This helps you to find out issues related to file submission. If your files are not scanned or if your data is not passing properly between the FortiGate to FortiSandbox. So Diag Debug application quarantine helps you to debug those things. We will go into the other issues also that you can see possible issues. Okay, I have already shown you authorization initial when we started. Okay, so this same debug is explained here. I will come to that afterwards because this you may not understand now. Okay. One of the issues you might observe is you can say this is an issue here. What is the issue? Inline method is not available. These are like all based on my experience. I have taken all possible issues that you will observe. Okay. So inline method is not available. So when you are trying to configure an antivirus security profile, because you know in my previous video I had explained what all things you need. You need an antivirus profile to send in file submission to the FortiSandbox, right? So if you want basics, please watch out my previous video. Okay, so when you are configuring antivirus profile, under antivirus profile, you see only post transfer method here. Scan strategy, under scan strategy, you only see post transfer. There is one more option here called inline that is not visible. This is one of the issue that you will face. So there should be one more option available here that is called inline, like post transfer and inline. But on the firewall, you see inline is not available. So why this is not available is by default on a FortiGate, the all security profiles or the antivirus profile is in a flow mode. And as I told earlier in part 1, flow mode does not support the inline blocking. So this is most people observe this issue because the the mode of the antivirus profile is not visible on the GUI. Even you cannot change here. Okay, let me show you this issue now on a live device. Okay. Okay, I am on my FortiGate. Okay, I am on my FortiGate. Let's go to security profile antivirus. I have this antivirus profile configured, and this is in, you can see here the feature set, that is called the feature set proxy based. So if this feature set is proxy based, then only you will see the inline method available here. Look here, if I change flow based, you only see post transfer. If I change to proxy based, you will see inline and post transfer. The issue is not this, like where you can clearly see the feature set. Okay, but issue is when you initially configure, you don't see the feature set itself here. Okay, let me show you again what I mean. If I click on create new, and I'm just creating a test AB profile, okay, and I enabled antivirus, I inspected some protocols and I enabled the antivirus profile and clicked OK. Okay, now if I go back to the test AB profile, you don't see the feature set option here, right? The feature set option is not there. And if you select send files to FortiSandbox, you only see post transfer. Even if I click OK, go back, you don't see, and we will be struggling to find out where is the inline scan option here. We will struggle a lot if you don't know. So if you want to change this to the inline mode, first you have to change the AV profile to proxy mode, and this initial setting is only available from CLI. So if I click console, I do config antivirus profile, edit test AB profile, and I say set feature set proxy. If I change this and go back to the profile in the GUI back again, and I open, now you see the feature set option. So you can see after changing the feature set to proxy, if you go back to GUI, you will be able to see this feature set option highlighted, and now you will see the inline method. Okay, hope it's clear now. Let's go back here. So inline method is not available because the default antivirus security profile is into flow mode, and changing the method to proxy is not available in GUI. So first time you have to change from CLI, then you can change back and forth in GUI. So what you have to do is, solution is, you have to go to the antivirus profile, change the feature set to proxy, and once you do this feature set to proxy, you will see the inline method available. Okay, now coming back to the other issues with respect to FortiSandbox, like file submission. Okay, so when you are submitting all the files from FortiGate to the FortiSandbox, you might see an error which called file reached uncompressed size limit. So basically this error means the maximum file that is supported to be sent, or the archive file that is to be sent from FortiGate to FortiSandbox, exceeds the size limit that is configured. Exceeds the size limit that is configured, or that is allowed between FortiSandbox and FortiGate. So this is a configurable option. Okay, so you will see here an error in your FortiGate antivirus logs where it says file reached and compressed size limit. So how to see this? If you go to FortiGate log and report, and if you select security events and select here antivirus, okay, antivirus, for example last 7 days, so you will see an log here. Okay, so, and that log under details, if you go here, that error will appear here. Okay, so these logs are available under security events, so you will be able to see all these. Okay, so one of the errors you will see is this one, as explained, file reached and compressed size limit. Okay, the more important, or most of the time, the error that people see is FortiSandbox scan error. So FortiSandbox scan error generally happens when uh, FortiSandbox is not reachable, is down, or connectivity from FortiGate to FortiSandbox is not available. All in all those cases, you see a FortiSandbox scan error, or if the VMs inside FortiSandbox is not running and uh, FortiSandbox is rejecting the scans. So if FortiSandbox rejects the scan or due to any VM issues or anything, then you will see this FortiSandbox scan error. So for this scan error, what happens? This happens when FortiSandbox is unreachable or not able to scan the files, and files are not submitted. Okay. Then you will also see FortiSandbox scan timeout error. So FortiSandbox scan timeout error happens when the behavior analysis or the scan of a file inside a VM takes a longer time than what is configured. So there is a timeout value for each scan, every scan, and that timeout value is a configurable option. And if the dynamic scan inside the VM takes a longer time, more than what is configured, then you see this FortiSandbox scan timeout error. Okay. So under the debug logs, okay, you will see if you run the debugs on FortiGate, you will be seeing uh, action timeout. So when the action is timeout, in the debug you will see ICB FSA action timeout. So this means this error happened because of a timeout from FortiSandbox, or the scan took a longer time. So the configure timeout is 45. This is a solution. The configure timeout is 45 seconds. If you go into the FortiSandbox and check the job detail of that particular scan, what is a VM scan timeout? VM scan timeout is 45 seconds. But the VM took a time of 61 seconds in the dynamic scan, which is greater than this 45 second, and this job was expired. So in this case, because the time taken to complete the job within VM was greater than the configured timeout, so in those cases, on the FortiGate, you will see a FortiSandbox scan timeout error. Okay, hope it's clear. Coming back, like one more issue, when you see fail to connect VM image server. So when we are under VM settings, there are the VMs available which are already installed local default, and you can also get new VMs from FortiGuard server, and that URL is called fsavm dot fortinet.com. Okay, so if this URL is not reachable from your sandbox, then you will get this error, fail to connect to VM image server, because this VM image server is this server fsavm.fortinet.com. So even during the test network, the 40 on the FortiSandbox, I'm sorry. So even when we are doing a test network on FortiSandbox, you will see FSA trying to test the reachability to this URL. So this URL test is related to failed this VM image server. So if you see this VM image server, that means please check the reachability to this URL from your FSA. Now, okay, these are some random PPTs I made. Okay, so whenever you are facing any issues, what are the important details that you have to collect and share to the Fortinet tech support, technical support team is status, sandbox engine, VM status, test network. So basically, status tells you all about the system firmware version. So if you run on a sandbox, if you run status tells you like what is the firmware version running and what is the RAID level, when was the device rebooted, all this. So because we Fortinet technical support will ask you this. Then you have sandbox engines. Sandbox engine tells you. So when we run the command sandbox engine, it tells you the different versions of different signatures that are available on the sandbox for the scans, sandbox engines. And VM status command tells you the status of different VMs that are installed on the FSS. This is similar to the GUI page of VM scan settings. Okay, here you can see what are the different VMs, license, what is installed, Office 2019 installed, 21 installed, 16 activated. So this is shown under VM status command. Okay. Okay. These are the commands that helps you to do all the debugs. I will show you these commands on the live. Diagnose VAD scan, sys scan unit, application quarantine. So these five commands on FortiGate side. So this is basically on FortiGate. Earlier we were talking about uh, FortiSandbox. These commands are on FortiGate if you want to find out the issue. Okay, let's talk about the flow, FortiSandbox and FortiGate process flow. So whenever, okay, I will show you in the live now. So whenever a traffic is sent via FortiGate from an end user, FortiGate extract files from the network and it uses the antivirus scan profile for sandboxing feature. File size limit apply as I had told when the error was uh, uncompressed size limit and all. So because file size limits apply, this can be configured. This is a configurable value. Then FortiGate queries the FortiSandbox if the file was previously forwarded. If it is a duplicate file or previously forwarded file, then it will use the verdict from the last file if the checksum is same. Otherwise, it will re-forward the file. Then the submission goes through a series of scan flow stages. A verdict can be reached at any stage, and the last stage is VM scan. The last stage is the VM scan, which takes 2-3 minutes, and FortiSandbox keeps the submission and its result for 60 days for a malware verdict and 3 days for a clean verdict. This is important. Okay. FortiGate pulls the latest database every 2 minutes from FortiSandbox and updates its database so that, like, if the file is repeated, you can use the database. And FortiSandbox checks FortiGuard every hour and downloads new packages and engines. So this is all the flow. So you see here, like in the flow, it is like a file is coming via FortiGate, going here, and then this is submitted to Sandbox, the number 3. It does all the scan, it checks status from FortiGuard, and then gives a verdict back to FortiGate. Okay, and then finally the file is delivered. So it's basically the file is holded in inline scan until the verdict is received. What are the different FSA scan stages? So within the FortiSandbox, there are multiple different scans or stages that a file can be in. A file can be either rejected or can be said clear based on a pre-scan filter. So pre-scan filter is a like a static or manual filter based on allow list, deny, allow list, blacklist. So pre-scan filter is if the file type is as a part of pre-scan filter, then it is not sent to the dynamic VM scan and it is part of pre-scan filter. Then there is static scan. So static scan is based on what is statically just based on available database, available definitions based on any static lists. So without doing a dynamic scan. So this all this based on category, based on rating, based on like based on already existing database without doing or running the actual executing file that comes under a static scan. Even at at any of these stages, there can be a clean or malicious verdict depending on low risk or whatever at any stage. And whatever stage the verdict is coming, that's it. Then it is no more scanned into the next stage. So if once the static scan is completed and if there is no verdict, then it goes to dynamic scan, which is the VM scan. And then it also goes to RTAP. So basically these are different FSA scan stages: pre-scan filter, static scan, dynamic scan, and RTAP. FSA scan stages. So we discussed about different FSA scan stages, and now these are the commands that are uh, to troubleshoot when the files are not submitted. So we can do a diagnose debug pre-scan on FSA. This is for FSA, like whatever the files are dropped or verdict is given based on pre-scan in the FSA. Then this is all communication from FGT to FSA can be seen under this command from FGT to FSA. Okay. Then this is used to configure the file types that are bypassed or that are configured in the pre-scan filter. And this is to restart the services on FortiGate. Okay, now let me quickly show you because otherwise the video will be too longer. There are so many other issues that I can explain and I can keep on talking for hours, but let me quickly show you how this works. Okay, so I have one VM running. I have a VM running and this VM is passing via this FortiGate and this is a FortiSandbox. Okay, so if I try to run, for example, this, okay, I'm trying to execute this malware file, some sample malware file, and if I go on my FortiGate, if I check the security events logs, okay, you will see this source and this file is blocked. Why this is blocked? Because this is blocked. Why this is blocked? Blocked by FortiSandbox. Okay, blocked by FortiSandbox. Why FortiSandbox blocked it? Because it suspects this file contains this malware or this Trojan. So this is called the inline scan. Okay, inline scan. How you can check the debug logs and all for this? Okay, let me show you the debug logs. Maybe it's too quickly. If I do the debugs as I informed you in the PPT, okay, let me paste these. Just copy and quickly I will paste here. Done. Now I will try to download a malware file here. For example, energetic beer implant. Download. What happens on FortiGate? So because my debugs were running, I will see that file here is sent to file name energetic beer implant. Okay, this ICB send this to FortiSandbox. Okay, so this is all the debugs running, so it will be difficult for you to understand. So I am just showing you the file name that is sent from FortiGate to FortiSandbox. So if I check a security event here, I will see one log created energetic beer implant and this is blocked. Why this is blocked? Let's check this. Energetic blocked by FortiSandbox. Okay. Now if we go into FortiSandbox under scan job and file job, for example. So you see here the request came from FortiGate to FortiSandbox. FortiSandbox gave this as a malicious verdict. Why the AB scan engine? And if you double click on view job details, you will be able to see it is detected by the AB scan engine before VM scan. So I was telling no stages. So this file even did not went to the VM. Instead, this is detected by the AB scan engine itself or a static scan. Okay. What is the file name? Submitted beer submitted by which device? And that's the status. And the verdict given was it's a malware. Okay. So because it has been given a verdict or rating as malicious, FortiSandbox is blocking this file. So this is called the inline. All this is inline blocking. In post transfer, what happens? It can monitor or it can block, but the first file itself will be on hold, like will be transferred to the user in post transfer. Okay. So if you check the security profile antivirus, go to AB inline FSA, you see here inline scan and post transfer scan. Okay. So these were all the possible issues that you can observe between FortiSandbox and FortiGate. There is so much to talk, but I am just quickly finishing up. Maybe I will come up with more issues, more details later on. For now, I think that's enough for this video. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving your time to watch this. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.